Everybody's in.
Okay, and who do we have quorum here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got quorum.
8.
7.
Got 8.
We're missing 2. All right. Morning, everyone, and welcome to the January 2026 edition of the Township of Muskoka Lakes Planning Committee meeting. I call this meeting to order at 9 o'clock. I will confirm that we have the 9 out of 10 members present and 2 of them on Zoom. Also, we have the CAO, the Deputy Clerk, the Director of Development Services, Environmental Sustainability, and other members of staff. We put the agenda on we asked for input on the agenda through the email of the township. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded on the Township of Muskoka Lakes website and YouTube channel. By participating in the open meeting today, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded and posted online. We have no supplementary agenda, and let me ask committee, do we have any pecuniary interest in any of the items on the agenda today? All right, seeing none. I think it's time to move on to the first item on the agenda, and that is concurrent zoning bylaw amendment and consent application. It is Plan Report 2026-008. It is Victoria Island, and Miss Walker, I believe you are presenting this.
Thank you, Chair Bosenworth, and good morning, everyone. The first applications to be heard are consent application B/0425ML and zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 01/25 in the name of HNATIW. Next page, please. The subject lands are known municipally as 1 Victoria Island M5. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent sketch on page 34 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the proposed applications is to create 1 new lot with frontage on Lake Muskoka. The proposed retained lot contains 2 dwelling units and accessory structures. A 3rd dwelling was recently demolished on this property. The applicants are proposing to convert an existing dwelling unit to a sleeping cabin on the retained lot and an existing sleeping cabin to a dwelling unit on the severed lot. The proposal will result in the retained lot containing 1 dwelling unit and 1 sleeping cabin, and the severed lot containing 1 dwelling unit. Next slide, please. The purpose and effect of ZBA 0125 is to permit the retained and severed lot to have undersized lot areas and to permit the severed lot to have an undersized frontage. The applicants are also proposing to amend the definition of lot frontage on the retained lot. Additionally, the zoning bylaw will permit a change of use for the existing dwelling and the existing sleeping cabin with an associated sun deck at their existing front yard setbacks. It will also repeal bylaw 2023-133. Next slide. And next slide. And next slide, please. Thank you. Notice of this public meeting under the Planning Act was circulated 29 days in advance of this meeting, and 6 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, Matt Veach, the Township's Development and Transportation Engineering Coordinator, Paul Lydon, the Township's Fire Prevention Officer, Chriselle Story, the Township's Land and Agreements Coordinator, and Sarah Campbell, Planner for the District of Muskoka and Bell Canada. These comments were all circulated to committee prior to today's meeting, and no concerns were raised. I've prepared a detailed, next slide please, report for committee's consideration. Staff have recommended that the applications be approved with the recommended conditions of consent and that the revision to zoning bylaw amendment, which is detailed in the staff report. I have no other comments, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe the applicant's agent is Mr. Baradas.
Good morning, members
Morning.
of the committee. My name is Savas Veranis of Plan Muskoka. I am here representing the applicants as their agent, and I'm a registered professional planner. I've read the staff report and agree with recommendations made by staff. I think it's been accurately described to you. I guess I don't really have much to add other than this property started with 3 dwellings on it. Through the removal of one and the application being approved here today, if it is dividing the land, it'll result in only having 1 dwelling per property, which is quite a big difference from having 3 on 1. The lands have been historically owned by this family and continue to be so. As you can see from the photographs that were shown at the end of the slideshow, it's really well vegetated and well maintained in a natural state. So I have full, I guess, support for the applicants to continue using the property in such a manner and keeping it in great shape for years to come. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the committee may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any people wishing to speak in support of this application? Are there any online? Are there any online wishing to speak against this application? Very well. Committee, do we have any questions of Ms. Walker or the applicant?
They're all.
All right. Committee, pay close attention. This is a long one. Moved by Mayor Kelly, seconded by Councillor Kent. Be it resolved that consent application B04/24/ML be approved subject to the following conditions. 1, that a satisfactory registrable deed or description deed of the severed lot together with any required right-of-ways or easements be submitted to the township along with a registered copy of the reference plan. 2, the confirmation be received that the township is satisfied that the severed and retained lots are satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal, and that any problems identified with any existing sewage systems be corrected to the satisfaction of the township. 3, that the applicants enter into a consent agreement with the township pursuant to section 51(26) of the Planning Act. Said agreement shall be registered against the title of the lands and contain provisions to the satisfaction of the township whereby the owner agrees to not utilize the public parking and docking facility as a principal means of access to the retained and severed lots, and that the adequate long-term parking and docking facilities used to access the severed lot be secured at all times, to convert the existing sleeping cabin on the severed lot to a dwelling as intended in accordance with section 3.5.3 of the township zoning bylaw. 4, that a rezoning be approved to permit the undersized area of the retained and severed lots, to permit the undersized severed frontage of the severed lot, to redefine how lot frontage is measured on the retained lot, to permit the change of use for the existing dwelling on the retained lot, and existing sleeping cabin and associated sun deck on the severed lot at their existing front yard setbacks, and repeal bylaw 2023-133. Committee, is there any discussion on that? All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. That carries.
Thank you.
All right, so on average, these are going to be an okay length because this one's very short. Moved by Councillor Burry, seconded by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved, the zoning bylaw amended application ZBA-01/25 be approved subject to the following revision, that the proposed retained lots be limited to 1 dwelling and 1 sleeping cabin. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Our next item is ZBA 18/24 Smith and Ms. DeMello, I believe.
Thank you, Chair Bosworth. The next application to be heard is zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 18/24 in the name of Smith. Subject lands have no civic address assigned. Next slide, please. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 100 of the agenda package. The subject property is primarily vacant and currently contains an existing shed. Next slide, please. Purpose of the subject application is to rezone the southerly portion of the subject property from rural area 2, RU2, to rural commercial industrial, RUC6. The application proposes the development of a self-storage facility as the main use, consisting of 60 storage units and an accessory open storage area for the purposes of storing equipment, materials, trailers, boats, recreational vehicles, travel trailers, and similar vehicles and chattels. An exemption to the side yard setback requirement of 100 feet is also proposed. A side yard setback of 50 feet is proposed. Next slide, please. Notice of this public meeting under the Planning Act was circulated 36 days in advance of this meeting, and 4 comments have been received to date. Comments from the Development Services Division indicate no objection and note additional requirements to be reviewed at the building permit stage. Comments from Emergency Services indicate no objection and note additional design and building code requirements to be fulfilled at the site plan stage of development. Comments from Operational Services indicate no objection and note that recommendations from the drainage assessment should be implemented. Comments received from the District Municipality of Muskoka indicate no objection, provided the recommendations of the Land Use Compatibility Assessment are implemented to the satisfaction of the township. Next slide, please. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and recommend that zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 1824 Smith be approved, subject to the following revisions to the draft bylaw. 1, that the area proposed to be rezoned on Schedule 2 be rezoned to rural commercial land extensive, RUC5, instead of rural commercial industrial, RUC6. 2, that a 6-meter landscape buffer be required in the front and exterior side yard abutting the proposed storage units and open storage area. 3, that the draft bylaw be revised to permit a sewage system or any other servicing or Ontario Building Code requirements outside of the area permitted to accommodate a self-storage facility as shown crosshatched on Schedule 3 and on land zoned RUC5. And 4, that a definition for the terms self-storage facility and open storage be added to the draft bylaw. A revised land use compatibility assessment was provided by the applicant's agent yesterday, which contains an updated noise assessment. The initial noise assessment used sound data, which included commercial trucks, such as transport trucks. The noise assessment has been revised to include more accurate sound data for pickup trucks, which more accurately reflects the proposal. Accordingly, staff recommend the removal of the 3rd minor revision listed in the report, which recommends a 47-meter setback for future development on the portion of the property zoned RU2. The resolution has been amended to reflect this change. I have no further comments at this time, and I'm happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. DeMello. I believe the applicant agent is Mr. Soya. Good morning, Mr. Soya. As you know, 5 minutes.
Is it on now? There we go.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, members of committee and township staff. My name is Sam Soya. I'm a senior planner with Tulloch at 80 Main Street West in Huntsville, postal code P1H1W9, and I'm representing the applicant here today. I'd like to thank township staff for their review of the application and for their planning recommendation and the overview this morning. This zoning bylaw amendment application aims to enable the development of storage units and accessory outdoor storage to service both seasonal and permanent residents in the Torrance area. And the assessments that have been completed demonstrate that the proposed storage uses are appropriate for this property, will not negatively impact deer wintering habitat, and are compatible with the surrounding rural land uses. Camp Crossroads to the south has advised in a letter that they have no concerns with a rezoning of the property. And also with regards to compatibility, the staff report had mentioned that comments have not been received from the closest abutting property owner to the west. And I just wanted to make it clear that that neighboring property, which contains an aggregate extraction operation, is actually under the control of the applicant. Although the ownership is under the name of the applicant's business, for all intents and purposes, it's in the same ownership, and therefore a letter has not been submitted. We have no concerns with the recommendations as described by Ms. DeMello in her presentation. with that minor change being made to the recommendation to not require the 47-meter setback. And I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have anybody online wishing to, or anybody in the room or online wishing to speak in favor of this application? No, right. And is there anybody in the room wishing to speak against the application or online? Seeing none. All right. Over to the committee. Committee, do we have questions of the applicant or Mr. Mello? Councillor Zavitz.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning, all. And through you, sir. This is a great company, great community spirit, great long-term group of family here. I am totally and wholly supportive of this initiative completely. I just, though, want to draw attention to, in the recommendation, if I might, and I guess this could be a question to staff or to Sam, that a 6-meter landscape buffer be required in the front and exterior side yard abutting the proposed storage units and open storage area. So the photos show very clearly the positional, and of course the sketches provide every piece of information as to where this will be, where this site is located. I'm hearing a few concerns about folks don't, it's great that it's there, but they don't really want to see it.
Councillor Zavitz, would you like me to read the resolution?
Well, my question is, no, if I might,
Okay.
getting to the question, and I just wanted to frame that.
All right.
Thank you for the opportunity, that folks are saying they're concerned about seeing this. We don't know two things. We don't know, I guess, heights of buildings. And I guess I'm looking for a description as to what a 6-meter landscape buffer includes. Is that a berm? Is that heavy plantings? So could someone, describe what that looks like? Thank you.
Mr. Mello, let me ask you first, what would be the township's intent on that?
Through the chair, the intent of the 6-meter landscape buffer is mainly to ensure that the existing vegetation within that area is maintained. That area abutting the proposed storage units and the open storage area already consists of a significant amount of coniferous trees and deciduous trees. So the intent would just be that that area is maintained to ensure that the open storage area and the storage units are screened from the road.
Thank you very much. Does that answer your question, Councillor Zavitz?
Thank you, and through you, I suppose it does. I mean, if we're going to be asking for additional plantings and/or I can't see a berm, because if you put a berm up, that means you'd be removing all the vegetation to put a berm up. People simply don't want to see. What I'm understanding is people don't want to see it, and I think there are other examples of that around the township, more in commercial areas. This is a scenic corridor, if you will, going to hundreds of millions of dollars of cottages, and it's predominantly cottage ownership along that, beyond that road. And so we would ask, I suppose, that consideration be made to somehow screening the buildings from, the road. That's the concern. I mean, we don't know how the buildings are 6 feet tall, 20 feet tall, et cetera. So that's just want to get that information into the mix here. Thank you.
Mr. Soya, have you got some comments to add to that?
Thank you. I would just want to point out that the setback here is from the road and is greater than, the vegetation extends onto past the property line as well, onto the road allowance a little bit. So there is retaining that buffer. There would be more vegetation than just that 6 meters typically. Then with regards to the height of the buildings, what is proposed is a typical storage facility that is a single story and has small kind of garage doors, as would be typical elsewhere. So also at the intersection of the two roads that meet there, these buildings are going to be closer to there. So any outdoor storage is further away from the intersection. So further away from East Bay Road. So that will be that outdoor storage will be buffered from East Bay Road, the main road through there, by those buildings. And they'll be pretty typical, just the storage, just those types of storage units. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Kent and then Mayor Kelly.
Thank you, Councillor Bosworth. My question relates to boat outdoor storage. And I don't know the specific location, but I'm looking at the map and I'm trying to figure out, it's not far from the lake to this storage facility. And I don't know if there's any dock ingress or egress from the lake there, but I'm wondering whether the intention is for people to be storing a lot of winter boat storage there, which is obviously not easy to hide. Big blue tarps over boats. Just wondering whether that was part of the plan. I know they mention it, but I haven't heard any discussion of it. That would be my biggest concern, is that there's going to be a ton of activity and traffic in the fall and in the spring, and it will be not attractive visually. You can hide maybe the building, but the boats tend to take up a lot more space.
Mr. Sawyer, can you comment on that?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. So the use here is not a dryland marina, and the outdoor storage area is not that large. So could a boat be stored there? I believe the use that permitted it, it would permit it, but this is not the intent of the storage area. It's not going to be like used by a marina to store just boats, that type of thing. So it is accessory to the outdoor, to the accessory space in that area to be used for some outdoor storage, which could be a variety, but it's accessory to the mini storage units.
Can I just follow up? But where is the nearest marina or ingress egress boat area?
Mr. Sawyer?
Actually, I'm not exactly sure where the nearest access is. I know there's East Bay Marina to the north. So there is boat access to Lake Muskoka in that. I mean, it is a cottage area.
Thank you.
Mayor Kelly and then Councillor HNATIW. Thank you, Mr. Sawyer.
Thank you. And through you, I may not be as enthusiastic as Councillor Zavitz, but I do support this application and this type of business. I do, however, have one question, just so that we all know what to expect. Some of these storage facilities operate 24/7, where the customer actually has an access pass or a key code to get in, move equipment, open and close, do their business on site whenever they feel, middle of the night, on a Sunday, whatever. And some are contained to specific business hours. And I'm just curious to know what model is being followed here. Is it intended that it be accessible 24/7 to the customers, or will it be prescribed during prescribed business hours?
Mr. Sawyer.
Through you, Mr. Chair. The business model, I don't know if it has been entirely decided upon, but it is possible that it could operate on a 24-hour basis. There has been a noise assessment done as part of the land use compatibility study, and it is directly also beside aggregate operations. So there is considerable noise from those aggregate operations that have been long-standing in that area. And this has really been seen by the consultant that did the compatibility study as the way they framed it was that this is sort of almost a buffer between sensitive land uses and that aggregate operation. But in general, yeah, I mean, there could be pickup trucks, that type of thing, driving in there, but overall traffic is considered to be very low for this type of operation.
Thank you.
Councillor Nishikawa.
Through you, it's just a comment.
Would you like me to read the resolution then?
Oh, sorry, I thought you had, okay, yes, if you don't mind, thank you.
Committee, just any more questions? It doesn't matter. We can read the resolution and continue with questions if needed.
Amending motion after? I
see. Do I do them together? I think I have to do them together.
Yeah, I would.
All right, so we have the main motion and then there was the amending motion to do with the 47 meter setback. So let me do the main motion first. Moved by Councillor Edwards, seconded by Councillor Zavitz. Be it resolved that the zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA-18/24 Smith be approved subject to the following revisions to the draft bylaw. That the area proposed to be rezoned on Schedule 2 be rezoned to rural commercial dash land extensive bracket RUC5 instead of rural commercial, commercial industrial RUC6. That a 6 meter landscape buffer be required on the front and side yard setbacks abutting the proposed storage units and open storage unit area. That the draft bylaw be revised to include a minimum setback of 47 meters for future development on the portion of the property zoned rural area to RU2 from the lands zoned rural commercial land extensive RUC5 in accordance with the MECP minimum exclusionary sound level limits for Council 3 areas as identified in the land use compatibility assessment prepared by GHD dated April the 3rd, 2025, that the draft bylaw be revised to permit a sewage permit or any other servicing or Ontario Building Code requirements outside of the area permitted to accommodate a self-storage facility as shown cross-hatched on Section 3 and on land zoned RUC5, and that a definition for the term self-storage facility and open storage be added to the draft bylaw. So that's the main motion. And then the amendment would be seconded by Councillor Edwards, seconded by Councillor Zavitz. Be it resolved that the resolution to be amended to strike out the third paragraph, which states the following. That the draft bylaw be revised to include a minimum setback of 47 meters for future development of the portion of the property zoned RU2 from the zoned rural commercial land extensive RUC5 in accordance with MECP's minimum exclusionary sound level limits for Class 3 areas as identified by the land use compatibility assessment prepared by GHD date April the 3rd, 2025. All right, Councillor Nishikawa, you had some comments.
Thank you again through you. This area is, first of all, the pit is been here for ever, at least certainly since the 50s. Most of the cottagers have dealt with the property owner for business purposes over many, many years, well respected. The noise, if you want to talk about noise or any of that sort of thing, are the hundreds of pickup trucks that travel along East Bay Road to the cottages. It's not result of this type of an operation, but it's also very well buffered, well treed. The whole area has always been well maintained away from the public. This operation wouldn't require it, but other operations that would happen at the pit, the applicant would be very courteous and letting people know if there were going to be certain noises, certain days, and that type of thing. It's like the worriness of being too close to water. It's not close to the water, as well as, again, the traveled road and the traveled public will not be impacted by this, in my opinion. And I generally drive the road 4 or 5 times a day. So I really hope that we support this, because it really is a complementary. I just want to say it's like having a little boutique next to the pit, quite honestly. But it's a really soft approach to adding business to the area. Thank you.
Committee, do we have any other debate or discussion on this? I have one question for Mr. Soya. Mr. Soya, do you know what color they are planning on painting the units? Color makes a difference to visibility.
I am not aware what the color is that it will be painted. I would assume that it would be something could be chosen that would fit into the natural landscape. But I don't believe that decision has been made at this time.
Very well. Okay, committee, any one last chance? Are we ready to call the vote on this?
Amendment first.
Yep. All right, so all those in favor of the amendment, or sorry, of the resolution? Any opposed? Okay, that carries. All those in favor of the resolution as amended? Fine, thank you very much. I'll sign both of those in a minute. All right, our next item is ZBA 0925 2838234 Ontario Inc., and that is Ms. Crowder.
Not the main one.
Thank you, Chair Bosenworth. The next application to be heard is zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 0925 in the name of 2838234 Ontario Inc. The subject lands are known municipally as 1613 Peninsula Road. Next slide, please. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted zoning sketch on page 206 of the agenda package. The subject lands are currently developed with a dwelling with an attached sun deck, an as-built sun deck with an incorporated hot tub, an as-built pump house, a dock, and as-built boat lifts. Next slide, please. The purpose and effect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application is to recognize an as-built pump house, an as-built sun deck with an incorporated hot tub, an as-built dock addition, and as-built boat lifts. The requested exemptions are summarized as shown on the screen. This table was included in the circulation materials and provided in the agenda package. Next slide, please. Notice of this public meeting under the Planning Act was circulated 35 days in advance of this meeting, and 6 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, stating that if approved, building permits are required for the pump house and the retaining wall. Comments were received from Matt Veach, Development and Transportation Engineering Coordinator for the township, Paul Lyden, the township's Fire Prevention Officer, and Chriselle Story, the township's Land and Agreements Coordinator, all stating no objection to the application. Comments were received from Sarah Campbell, Planner for the District Municipality of Muskoka, stating no objection to the application. One letter of opposition has been received from Aaron Rooney on behalf of the abutting property owner to the west. This letter was provided to the members of committee prior to today's meeting and can be read in full at the request of committee. It is my understanding that Ms. Rooney is here today to speak to her concerns. Next slide, please. The staff report before committee details policy considerations relative to the request to recognize an as-built sun deck with incorporated hot tub within the required side yard setback. Due to nonconformity with policies relative to privacy, noise, visual buffering between properties, and considering the neighbors' comments in opposition, staff have recommended that this exemption be denied. If this exemption were denied, the applicant would be required to remove the portion of the as-built sun deck within the required side yard setback. Next slide, please. As detailed in the staff report, the property is currently built in excess of the maximum permitted lot coverage that could be contemplated without an official plan amendment. In discussions with the applicant's agent, the applicant has opted to convert this impermeable sun deck to become a permeable feature. Staff recommend that this be implemented through withholding of third reading of the bylaw. Provided the sun deck becomes permeable, the exemption related to lot coverage would no longer be needed, and staff recommend that it be removed from the bylaw. The resultant lot coverage would be 9%. Next slide, please. Staff are not opposed to the exemption to recognize the as-built boat lifts, which are over the maximum permitted cumulative width, provided third reading of the bylaw be withheld until such time as the pole boat port structure is removed. Next slide, please. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration. Staff have recommended that a decision on zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 0925, as it relates to requested exemptions A, C, E, and F of Table 1 of Report Plan-2026-011 be approved subject to the following. That a revision be made to the draft bylaw to depict the survey-verified lot frontage and area values. That third reading of the bylaw be withheld until such time as the impermeable sun deck is converted to a permeable one, as demonstrated through the issuance of a revised or new building permit, and that said permit is final inspected. And the pole boatport structure, as shown in Figure 10 of this staff report, be removed, leaving only one lift below. And that a site plan control bylaw be passed for the purpose of requiring the subject lands to obtain site plan approval, and that a satisfactory site plan agreement be entered into and registered on title, along with securities for matters including but not limited to the retention of existing vegetation and plantings to retain and revegetate the shoreline buffer, as well as the side yard buffer. Staff further recommend that exemption D, lot coverage, be removed from the draft bylaw, and exemption B of table 1 of the staff report to recognize an as-built sun deck within the required westerly side yard setback be denied. I have no further comments at this time, and I'm happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Crowder. Do we have the applicant's agent online? Is it Mr. Young? Welcome, Mr. Young. Good morning. And if you could start with your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. So good morning, members of the Planning Committee. My name is Ernest Young, planner with MP Planning and Associate, located at 44A King William Street, Huntsville, Ontario. We are the planning agent representing the property owner for the ZBA application before the committee today. Thank you, staff, for reviewing the application and recommending approval for most of the requested variances. Regarding exemption A, the subject property was historically developed with a dwelling and benefit from legal non-compliant status. So while the dwelling itself may be maintained or developed under those provisions, the lot must be recognized as buildable to permit the accessory structure associated with the dwelling use. And with respect to exemption C and E, we agree with the staff's recommendation of conclusion that the proposed structure are passive in nature. They are limited in scales, generate no additional habitable space, and have minimal physical and visual impacts. Any residual impacts can be effectively mitigated through the vegetative buffering, which has already been substantially implemented on site. Turning to exemption B, which related to the sun deck setback, this remains the only exemption that the staff are unable to support. It's understood that the staff and the neighbor have concern regarding the potential noise and privacy issue. The staff report note that a fence could also be considered to help mitigate the potential noise impact and to improve the privacy. The owner is willing to construct a fence to buffer any impact from the use of the hot tub or to plant additional vegetation along the side yard. If the committee believed this would support the approval of the exemption regarding the sun deck, the owner will also relocate the hot tub to meet the required side yard setback. Exemption D is no longer required. Subject to the approval of the application, the owner has committed to convert the existing deck to a permeable structure, which brings the total lot coverage into compliance with the standard. So then regarding exemption F, which relates to the cumulative dock width, it's important to clarify that the variances reflect the combined width of the dock and associated lifts. Dock itself is a replacement of a legal non-compliant dock constructed between approximately 1987 and 2008. The proposed dock width of nearly 26 feet exceeds the current standard of 21 feet by roughly 5 feet, which represent a modest and incremental variance. The remaining width is attributable to a boat lift and a jet ski lift, which are lightweight, open structure with minimum bulk created, with negligible liquid disturbance and have limited visual presence. So functionally and visually, these lifts would be comparable to watercraft moored alongside dock. Riverstone Environmental was retained to prepare a remediation plan and to assess the effectiveness and completeness of the mitigation measurements. The planning plan was specifically designed to increase vegetation coverage, to enhance the shoreline buffering, and to improve the visual screening from neighboring property and the lake. To date, the plan has been substantially implemented, including the planting of over 5 trees and 160 shrubs, all of which has been inspected and confirmed to be in good condition by the biologist. A portion of this work completed are shown in Figure 6 of the staff report. There were concerns regarding potential impact on fish habitat that were raised during previous circulation. So in response, Riverstone Environmental has conducted a focused assessment of the shoreline. So based on the report, the absence of key habitat features for fish, such as boulder, fallen trees, or overhanging vegetation, the shoreline in this location does not function as an active spawning habitat. And accordingly, it's the biologist's professional opinion that the existing and proposed shoreline structure have not result in and would not result in any adverse impact to fish habitat. With the exception of exemption B, we concur with the staff's recommendation for approval, subject to the proposed condition, and respectfully, we request that the committee to approve the application. I can answer any question the committee may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Young. Do we have anybody wishing to speak in favor of this application? And anybody wishing to speak? All right, would the owner like to speak? If you could turn your video and voice on.
Yes, hi. I appreciate the time. Thank you very
If you could
much.
start
I'll
with your
just be very brief.
If you could start with your name,
Yes, sorry,
address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, my name is Rick Huff, and my address is 46 Beresford, Toronto, Ontario, M6S3A8. Yes, I just wanted to bring up a few points that over the past 3 years, we've planted approximately 120 trees on the property. 7 of those trees are over 25 feet tall. So we went above and beyond the requirements. In excess of $200,000 has been spent on just the tree planting, pretty much broadly across the entire property, with special emphasis on planting trees along the property line. We've also planted over 250 native flowers and shrubs on the property as well. We've engaged an environmental biologist, to do a study on any impacts to fish. I know there was concerns initially from the neighbor to the north on flooding. We spent significant sums to plant native grass. And after over a year of that being in place, there's been no impact or any flooding associated. And as mentioned, we've, as part of the revised application, have offered to move the hot tub over, I think almost 10 feet, and put in a privacy fence. And also in that area, we've already planted 6 native large trees that are already there and growing. They weren't represented in that picture that you saw. We've also offered to reduce the size of the asphalt driveway that was there when I purchased the property, and then plant even more trees that would be part of that process. So I just wanted to provide just a little bit of background on some of the the work we've done in terms of investment, in terms of planting trees. It's a tremendous amount of trees for a property of that size, but we want it to provide ultimate privacy for everyone and to be integrated in with the environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do we have anybody else wishing to speak in favor of this application or anybody wishing to speak against this application? All right, thank you very much.
Hello,
Yes, good morning. Welcome. You have, if you start with your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Erin Rooney, 1617 Peninsula Road. Thank you, Chair Busenworth. I apologize. I will be speaking quickly to stick within my 5 minutes, which I have time due to the large number of requested amendments. My mother, Mary Armstrong, is sitting beside me and is the co-owner of the neighboring property to Rick Huff, along with her sister's family. He wanted me to say that my grandfather built our cottage in 1949, and it has been a very special family place for 76 years. Now into the 4th generation. She and we all are distraught by what has happened next door, both by the actions of Rick Huff, but also the fact that the local contractors that were party to those actions blatantly ignored the bylaws that were put in place to protect our beautiful Muskoka. I'm Erin Rooney, daughter of Mary Armstrong and lifelong Muskoka lover. In the interest of time, let's turn to page 3, which summarizes our desired outcomes in order of importance to us. Red check marks indicate what the planning report already recommended, and I'll briefly expand on each. On page 4, we are asking that both exemption B and C, referring to the as-built sun deck with incorporated hot tub, as well as the pump house, be denied. They are in an elevated position overlooking our sleeping cabin and face 2 bedrooms. They are currently at 7 feet versus the required 15 feet, and you can see in pictures A and B how close these structures are to our cabin. A 2-car parking pad on top of the pump house was not mentioned in the report, but creates noise and light from cars and headlights directly into our bedrooms. The parking pad was fully in use this summer and very disruptive, especially early in the morning and after sunset. I'd like to point out that there is significant existing space within the current cottage deck for a hot tub, and there already exists a very large sun deck that can be seen in picture C. If these additional accessory as-built structures are approved, that will mean there are significant side yard deficits on both sides of the property that is already undersized and over the maximum permitted lot coverage. The staff report recommends a sun deck be denied, which we fully agree with. We would like the pump house included in this request for the same reasons: compatibility, privacy, light, and noise. On page 5, we would like exemption E denied to recognize an as-built boat lift given the significant setback and frontage violations. The current as-built setback on the northwest side is 6.5 feet versus zoning allowed of 15 feet. Current dock width, including boat lifts, is at 52% of property frontage versus 25% zoning allowance. The extent of the numerical numbers are significant and they're inappropriate for the development of the property. In the first picture, you can see the impact to immediate views, both from the dock and cabin living room window. I disagree with staff assessment that these lifts do not impact our view. Watercraft could not be moored as is. They would be tied to the dock, one behind the other, and at water level. They currently sit side by side, are very high when fully elevated. They are 4 feet from our property versus the permitted 15 feet. The south side of the boathouse dock is used most of the day for sitting due to the shade and looks directly on the boat lifts. You can see in the third picture, numerous chairs on the side, as well as our swimming ladder. As my parents are sitting in this picture, they look directly on the elevated sea-doo. Turning to page 6, the staff report recommended the boat the pole boat port structure be removed, leaving only the lift below, and we fully agree for the reasons stated. My last two slides relate to the damage done to our property by the trespassing and landscaping from Mr. Huff. Slide 7 highlights the significant damage done to our property when we were not present. Rick asked permission to use our property for what he called some minor repairs to his sun deck. When my father asked him for a plan before allowing him access, we heard nothing back and came up to this. Serious damage to our property and trees. Our entire storage shed was wiped right off its foundation and had to be destroyed. Damaged and buried trees and very large equipment on our land. On slide 8, you can see from the first picture, the properties were on the same grade. Pictures to the right show the extreme grading created by his landscaping. We put up pink markers to try to keep the landscaping on the Huff property, and even then they landscaped onto ours. We have since learned these stakes placed by the landscapers were incorrect, and in fact, the current landscaping is up to 3.5 feet onto our property. We request that all landscaping is returned to his side of the property line and the damage repaired to ours, with the grading done in a manner to minimize erosion. You can see from the two pictures on the right, the erosion caused during the work. The piece of landscaping fabric remains on our property, which we would like also remedied and removed. In summary, we are asking that you hold both Mr. Huff and the local trades that worked on his property accountable to abiding by the laws that were put in place to protect neighbors and the environment in our beautiful Muskoka. The numbers of the variations and violations are significant and have a very negative impact on our property. Thank you for taking the time to listen, and we welcome any questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have anybody else wishing to speak against this application? No. Committee, we have time for questions on this application. There are questions for the planner or the applicant. Councillor Madsen.
Thank you, and through you. I think I'm a little bit confused. So in the hot tub, I think I heard from the applicant that they had an alternative location that they, and perhaps I missed that in this whole report.
Mr. Mello? I'm sorry, Miss Crowder.
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Mazan. As part of this application, they have proposed to move the hot tub further from the side lot line. The applicants have. The sun deck, however, would maintain that I believe it's 3 foot setback to the side lot line. I would note that a sun deck by definition permits a hot tub. So if your sun deck is 3 feet, your hot tub as of right would be permitted to be 3 feet.
Councillor Mazin.
Thank you. And a quick supplemental. So it's the sun deck that we need to be focused on. Thank you.
Ms. Crowder.
Yeah. I don't know.
All right. I think Councillor Kent and then Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. Ms. Crowder, just could you give me a little history on this property? I'm confused. Is Mr. Huff the original builder and owner, or did he buy it in a state? I mean, because I'm wondering how it got to this point where there were so many permit violations. If you could give me the history, I'd appreciate that.
Ms. Crowder.
Through you, Chair. It is my understanding that the applicant was the constructor of these features, or was the property owner when these features were constructed, rather. I can give you a bit of history in that there have been some bylaw orders placed on the property, and those matters have been dealt with, and now the applications lie with planning. I know that the applicant cited some concerns relative to site alteration, and I have spoken with Ms. Rooney and directed that they should be directed to our bylaw division should they be concerns that she wishes to pursue. But the applications before us today are dealing with the planning matters, which are those highlighted in the staff report. Happy to give further history, but that's sort of a synopsis of where we are.
Thank you. Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you, through you to, and I'm going to say Emily. I don't have my book in front of me. How large are we, is a pump house listed in our bylaws? I'm getting the feeling that what I saw was a much larger space than in my experience of having to place these on properties and things, that it looks a lot larger, and I'm just not understanding what our bylaw says for a pump house.
Ms. Crowder.
Through you, Chair, to Councilor Nishikawa, there is a size restriction on a pump house if a pump house is proposed to be located within the front yard of a waterfront residential property. Because this pump house is set back and not within the required front yard, there is technically no size restriction on that feature.
Okay, I'll leave it as a comment. Thank you.
Mr. Young, the neighbor had some concerns about the process in which some of this work has taken place. I wonder if you could comment on that. If you could come back on and comment on that.
I believe I could add to Mr. Huff's comment, because I believe Mr. Huff would like to add to the comment.
Yeah, I can comment if that is okay. To the
Mr.
committee.
Huff, let's keep it respectful, please.
Yes, absolutely. So just a bit of background. I had hired Muskoka Landscaping to do all the work, get all the required permits, as I'm not an expert on permits and what you can and cannot do. When they went down the path, there were many things that they said, oh, you don't really need a permit for this. It's not something that's been required. And I sort of leaned on them or just let them drive the project, if you will, as I'm not an expert in it. And just also to answer their question, I acquired the property once the main dwelling had already been completed. So the only work that I've done was the landscaping work. Just as a bit of background, I would say some of the comments made in terms of destruction of trees and flooding is not factual. There has been no flooding. I would encourage anyone to come to the property and take a look at the trees, the health of the trees. There has been no trees that have died as a result of any of the work that we've done. As I mentioned, we've planted over 120 trees. We've made sure that we've respected the property, and we greatly appreciate that they gave us access to their property to do the work that we wanted to do. And we will, of course, remove the final clock barrier that's there. We just wanted to be extra careful, as you know, within the first year, to make sure that everything we did does not have any flooding. It is not. The original cabin, or sorry, not cabin, but shed that was there, before we finished the work, there was some flooding because there was really no vegetation, no trees, no nothing. They asked us if we would remove the shed for them, and we did that at our cost. Again, since we've completed the work, it's been inspected by enforcement. There's been no flooding, no damage to trees where they've resulted in any trees dying. And again, there's since been, I think since some of those pictures that you saw have been taken, there's grass in place that's thriving. There's literally 20 to 30 trees along that property line that are in place now and thriving. So just wanted to provide a bit more background, and be happy to answer any more questions.
Thank you. Committee, do we have any more questions, or can I read the resolution for some discussion? All right. Moved by Councillor Mazin, seconded by Councillor Kent. Be it resolved that a decision on zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 0925 Ontario, as it relates to a requested exemptions A, C, E, and F on table 1 of report plan 2026-011 be approved, subject to the following. That a revision be made to the draft bylaw to depict the survey verified lot frontage and area values. That third reading of the bylaw be withheld until such time as the impermeable sun deck is converted to a permeable one, as demonstrated through the issuance of a revised or new building permit, and that the said permit is final and inspected, and the pole boathouse structure as shown in figure 10 of staff report plan 2026-011 be removed, leaving only the lift below, and that a site plan control be passed for the purpose of requiring the subject lands to obtain site plan approval and a satisfactory site plan agreement to be entered into and registered on title along with securities for matters including but not limited to the retention of existing vegetation and plantings to retain and revegetate the shoreline buffer. And that exemption D, lot coverage, be removed from the draft bylaw, and exemption B of table 1 of report plan 2026-01 be recognized as built as recognized and as an as built sun deck with required westerly yard side yard setbacks be denied. All right, so committee, what are our thoughts on this application? Councillor Burry.
Thank you. And through you, I'm confused. The resolution talks about approval and staff are recommending denial.
That was only on exemption D.
Okay. So this is the kind of application that significantly concerns me. Coming to council looking for forgiveness after having done a whole pile of stuff without building permits. And I really don't like it when people throw contractors under the bus. You hire a contractor, it doesn't absolve you from your responsibilities as an owner of a property. This particular application really concerns me. The boat lifts, they are structure. And anyone that tells me that they don't add to the view from the canoe hasn't been in a canoe. You put a boat on a lift, it is dock. And we've got good rules. They've been here for a long time. This whole application really concerns me. This is part of the reason why I decided to run, is to see what we can do about trying to fix some of this bad behavior. And that's all I can talk about this one, is bad behavior.
Committee, do we have any other comments? Councillor Edwards. Either one of you. You take it, Councillor Edwards.
I'm looking at page 197, where you have the boat lifts. I had one the other day. The boat lifts were in line. That would take something off of it if they were along the dock. That's one thing. I look at the other one from figure 9 from 2018, and there was a boat slip in there. It's been closed in. So now people are taking it, closing it, and adding on to it, and we're approving it. And it's over 50%, I believe.
Ms. Crowder?
Through you, Chair. The dock in figure 9 has a boat slip, like you've indicated. It was filled in. That addition of filling it in, while I believe as built, meaning without the benefit of a building permit, complies with section 3.2G of the zoning bylaw, where when you have a legal non-complying over with dock, you can add an addition to it, provided said addition complies with today's bylaw standards. So because the width of the boat slip being filled in complied with the standards, it is technically a compliant addition, just to clarify that component. The non-compliant additions here are the boat lifts. So the boat lifts on either side of the dock, one being within the required side yard, but both cumulatively exceeding the maximum permitted width.
And that follow.
Councillor Edwards, supplement?
So what what my point is that you have a dock, you have a slip, you close it in and you start adding on the outside of it. And that, the two small lifts for the skidoos, if they were in line, that would take some off of it, would it not?
Ms.
Just
Crowder.
like the other day and that, rather than.
Through you, Chair. Yes, Councillor Edwards, that's correct. If the boat lifts were placed in tandem, so to speak, it would increase the side yard setback to that lot line, though it would still be deficient. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from committee? Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Kent, and then Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. I completely agree with the sentiment of Mr. Burry. I find these kind of creeping takeovers with major violations, whether it be the owner or the prior builder, very disturbing. I'm particularly concerned by the comments from the neighbor, and I'm confused about how we deal with bylaw violations and permit violations. What are we going to be doing about the bylaw violations and the issues of remediation of the property of the neighbor? I don't see anything in the document related to that.
Ms. Crowder.
Through you, Chair.
Comments.
To Councillor Kent, sorry. Yes, so I have been in touch with the neighbor, Miss Rooney, and we have discussed the site alteration concerns that she has. And she is familiar with Miss Miners, our bylaw officer, and I've directed that any concerns that she does have, please convey those to Miss Miners, and our bylaw enforcement division will investigate those matters. If it is found through their investigation that there are infractions, orders can be placed on the property, and through the issuance of orders, remediation plans can be required and further implemented to remediate the work. So that would be the mechanism to see that any fill or alteration that's happened on Ms. Rooney's property could be rectified. That would be the appropriate avenue.
Councillor Nishikawa. We can't hear you.
Sorry, I thought I had changed it. Through you, I would like to see the boat lifts removed completely. If no part of it is compliant, I'm a little challenged with the idea that the dock was infilled, because for many, many years, we would not allow a dock that size. And it was more about the activities that can happen out there. But at this point, I would like to see the boat lifts completely removed.
Councillor Nishikawa, would you like to make a motion to that effect? As I think you might be able to find a seconder.
I may, if somebody else could handle that for me, that would be great. Thank you.
Oh, well, sorry. If you make the motion, I think you've got a seconder in Councillor Kent.
I do make the motion that the boat lifts be removed.
And I second that.
All right, then. If we just pause for a few minutes and we will write up that motion so we can discuss it. Councillor Zavitz.
Thank you, through you. Thank you for your indulgence. When you say boat lifts, are we talking the Sea-Doo lifts and the boat lift, like all lifts?
I think that's what the resolution will be. We'll get it written and we'll clarify it at the time. But that's the intent. That's what Councillor Nishikawa said.
Thank you.
Committee, just while we're waiting, if you look on page 2012, or sorry, 212 rather, there's another picture of the boat lifts with boats and sea-doos in them. Committee, let's take a break and we'll come back at let's say 20 after. That'll be our break. And we should not be
Oh, boy. What's the snow forecast in here, sir? What? What is the snow forecast? I don't know. Maggie, you wanna go out? Type's coming, it's just a little slow. Yeah. They say it's too terrible snowstorm on the for a while. No, far. Out. Definitely the day for a snow. Hello, handsome pooch. Oh my goodness, you're so handsome. You're so handsome. And your sister is so pretty. Elderly, beautiful lady. You are an elderly, beautiful lady. He's such a smart. He is a smart. He's just like falls asleep. He walks in from walks.
immediately curls up and passes.
Immediately calls into a ball, and goes, so if he's sitting there and we're drying him, he's like this high as you're going.
Mhm.
I can hardly, this is the hardest one of my life. You've done such an amazing, you're so amazing at this.
All right. Moved by Councillor Burry, seconded by Councillor Kent. Be it resolved that the resolution be amended to remove exemptions E and F from the first paragraph and add them to the last paragraph, that the exemptions for minimum side yard setback and maximum cumulative dock width for the boat lifts be denied, and that third reading of the bylaw condition be amended to remove the second bullet and replace it with, quote, that all boat lifts be removed as illustrated in figures 10 and 11 of staff report plan 2026-11. Committee, so we have this revision to the proposed bylaw. Comments? Councillor Mazin. Oh, sorry, I thought you had your hand up. Does anybody have their hand up? Councillor or Mayor Kelly.
Thank you, and through you, and I'll keep it quick. It's been a long time, I think, since we've seen one quite this egregious come before us. And while we are here at the Planning Committee to deal with planning issues only, there are far-reaching repercussions to some of the stuff that's gone on here and how we handle it. The last thing we need to do is leave the impression that if you're fast enough to the pipe, to the action, and if you can find the right person to disregard our rules and bylaws, you can get away with stuff. You can build things that are an assault on the environment, an assault on neighbors, and an assault on everything, frankly, that I would say all of us here on council, elected officials, were elected to uphold and represent. This brings back my concern that at some point in time, if behavior like this continued and it continues, and I am not going to call out any names of any businesses. I heard one name, but obviously I have no idea whether the assertion made was accurate or not. We need to consider things like licensing or otherwise patrolling who gets to work here. If there are people truly willing to step in and take these kinds of measures, these kinds of steps without any permits and without any regard to the rules and the bylaws of our for development and redevelopment of property. So I am in support of this change simply because we cannot sit back and let this kind of stuff go undealt with, unnoticed.
Committee, do we have any other comments or discussions on this additional resolution? Councillor Roberts.
Thank you. I echo what his worship has just stated. And I'm wondering whether if we should, at a future meeting, ask staff to come back with a way we would proceed with licensing contractors.
All right. Any other comments?
We need a resolution to direct that.
Well, I haven't heard a proposal for a resolution. It was just a comment, I think. Councillor Kent.
I was just going to supplement that in that I've had experience with a similar violation by contractors who are supposed to know the rules, and I would support having staff bring a report back on our options. It's obviously a very touchy and complicated matter, but would like to think it through as a committee, and I think it's something that deserves attention sooner rather than later.
Councillor Madsen, did you have your hand up?
Thank you, and through you. I just wanted to confirm that the resolution read is about the boat lifts. Is that correct?
It is about the boat lifts.
Okay.
All the boat lifts.
All the boat
So
lifts.
all three, 2 Sea-Doos, two PWC lifts, and a big boat lift.
Correct. So the decision right this moment is just whether or not we want that.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. All right, any more comments? Well, I'd like to make a comment about boat lifts particularly. When I first understood that we had a rule about boat lifts, I thought it was rather, how much of a problem could boat lifts be? Until I got a boat lift. And I have a boat lift, and I don't have a very big boat, it's an 18-foot boat. But when the boat lift is on its lift, you can see my boat from kilometers away. When it's not on my lift, you can hardly see it because half the boat's covered by the dock. So boat lifts in my mind, have a very significant impact on the visibility from the shore, from the waterway. So I also think that is, I don't normally give my comments on this one, but I think it's important. All right, so I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, that carries. That's my procedure now.
You need to pass the main motion as amended.
Well, all right, so we have dealt with that, the issue of the boat lifts. Are there any other issues in the original resolution that we want to discuss? Seeing none, I call for the vote for the main motion as amended. All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Do I sign this?
I don't know.
You can-
I'll get it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, I think the next item is our long-range planning and special projects. I believe Director Huff is going to talk to us about some official plan updates of the district. Sign here.
No, we haven't got that one. That's.
Good morning, Planning Committee. In 2024, the District of Muskoka initiated its 5-year comprehensive review of its own official plan, as required under the Planning Act. There have been 5 components identified to this project, and the district currently is focusing on component 3 being environmental resiliency and component 4 lake system health. I have attached or provided as a link in this report directly to the district reports and the policies that they're proposing so that they're available for your review and the public's review. They have completed a non-statutory public open house and public meeting on these policies. That was held back in December 11th. The district is currently seeking comments from all local area municipalities on the proposed policy changes. And the purpose then of this report is to present a summary of the key changes likely to impact us as the township and to provide comments. And staff are seeking support from Planning Committee to provide those comments to the district as part of the official commenting process. I will just quickly review some of the key changes being proposed at the district level. There are new policies related to the disposal of shore road allowances where they abut type 1 fish habitat. They have proposed to identify Lake Muskoka as a large inland lake and have clarified that a 5-meter wave uprush is to be applied to the floodplain mapping. And then they are also doing the exercise of actually updating that floodplain mapping and making it available. They propose to introduce some more restrictive approaches to development in flood hazard areas, especially as it relates to access and egress, to ensure that new lot creation and development has access to a municipal road that is not deemed a flooding hazard. They are requiring all boathouses to be subject to a planning application, likely to be site plan control. All lakes in Muskoka are deemed to be a sensitive surface water feature. This is new, and have introduced some policies to protect lakes from overdevelopment. And these changes include increasing minimum lot frontage and size requirements for new waterfront development, proposing a limitation to the amount of impervious surface on lots, requiring shoreline vegetation buffer be increased from 15 to 30 meters, and that at least 75% of the shoreline frontage be maintained. And finally, that a 30-meter setback from shoreline be imposed for all development except for shoreline structures and some minor accessory structures. Finally, they've also identified modifying a number of policies related to highly sensitive water bodies in TML that would be 3 Mile Lake, Silver Lake, and Bass Lake. Some of these changes include modifying the criteria and process for identifying highly sensitive water bodies, requiring chloride impact assessments and management plans where there's a substantial amount of impervious surfaces, and new substantive site plan reporting requirements. So applicants are actually going to be required to report to the district on their compliance to site plan measures. And the district is anticipating the workload associated with that and dedicating staff towards that workload. So without detailing all of staff comments that are in the report, I'll just provide a really high-level overview. Staff obviously are generally supportive of the new direction to further protect the environment and the lakes from overdevelopment. That's obviously a good thing, and what we're doing here locally. We have requested clarification from the district on a number of policies as to both their intent and implementation expectations. And we note that the policies will result in required updates to a number of local policies and bylaws, obviously the official plan and zoning bylaw, but also our site plan control bylaw, site alteration, and even disposal of shore road allowance policies. Staff anticipate a significant increase in site plan submissions, and the complexity of the approval process, the technical requirements will increase, both from a staff and applicant perspective. And staff really just want to make sure that we're prepared and the district is prepared for these changes. Staff have also encouraged the district to further consult with the public and local consultants to gauge their ability to respond to these new requirements and ensure that we all understand the impact on the application process, fees, et cetera, et cetera. And then lastly, I'll just take an opportunity to comment on and say that this will not be the last time that you will see these policies. So this is still in process, and they anticipate that there'll be another version of these policies that will be presented at the statutory public meeting that will be later in this year, and we'll have an opportunity to further comment at that time as well. In terms of just next steps on completion of the district official plan update, so we've had recent discussions with the district, and they anticipate bringing a report in February or March asking district council to endorse simply adding component 3 and 4 into the OPA 61 that they're calling it. And they're going to include a comment matrix that summarizes the comments that they've received thus far, both from the public and from area municipalities, and will include details on how those comments have been responded to. And then thereafter, the district will take a number of months to finalize the policies and then schedule the statutory public meeting. I will note that an amendment to the district OP does require provincial approval, and it's not subject to appeal. So when the province approves it, with or without modifications, it does take effect immediately. And as per the Planning Act, in the event that there's a conflict between an upper tier official plan and a lower tier official plan, the plan of the upper tier does take precedence. And so we'll be working closely to understand where some of our policies are superseded by the new ones that come into effect. As well, of course, the Planning Act also compels lower tier municipalities to amend their official plan within 1 year of the upper tier official plan changing. So we'll be looking to do that exercise in the near future as well. This concludes my comments on this report, but I'm happy to receive any comments or questions that committee might have.
Mayor Kelly, Councillor Mazin.
Thank you, and through you. First of all, quick comment. I'm really glad you're on this, that you're engaged in this. Obviously, from what I've just heard, this risks changing our ability for self-determination, and we need to make sure that we understand and agree with the kinds of things that are being proposed. That having been said, I just have one point of clarification. You mentioned, and it was in the context of a couple of smaller lake bodies, I think Silver Lake and Bass Lake. What I thought I heard you say was chloride management plan. Mm-hmm. Is it chloride CHL, like salt?
Yes.
And okay, I guess my general notion is that that's a roads issue, because I can't imagine anybody using salt as a landowner in any great quantity. So it would be either roads or commercial development, retail. And I'm not sure how that has anything to do with the local planning issue, but You can tell me how, please.
Thank you, Chair. So we did have a quick conversation with the district on that. I think what the district anticipates for large developments, say for instance, new resort developments or significant expansion to resort developments, there's going to be a lot of impervious surface. And so driveways that they may use salt to manage on site. And so in those circumstances, they would look for, with that planning application, the submission of just understanding how much salt and how they're going to manage salt in a manner that prevents it from really leaching into the lake that's there.
Thank you. Got it.
Councillor Mazin?
Thank you, and through you, and echo the comments. I thought this was a great introduction, at least for myself, to some changes coming. So thank you. And I do have a few questions, if that's okay, Chair?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. The first is understanding through this that Lake Muskoka is being kind of called out on its own now as a large inland lake. Could you describe to me what that means?
Director Huff.
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Mazan. So the largest change that comes with that is that for large inland lakes, they would apply a 5-meter wave uprush to the floodplain policy, to the limits of the floodplain. So the floodplain, as identified now on our current mapping, is going to be extended along the boundary of Lake Muskoka by 5 meters to take into consideration the potential impact of waves and ice potentially being shoved ashore, and wanting to ensure that those buildings and structures are set back or are appropriately constructed to manage that impact.
Okay, thank you.
Second question.
So the obvious question for the 4,500 or so properties then on Lake Muskoka, which is one of the lakes that currently does allow boathouses, this is where it's going to be felt the most. And I'm trying to understand through these different points what this means for existing boathouses versus any new development. So that's my first question, I guess. And then the second thing, I'm trying to weave through some of these comments, and I think that you're already asking some of these questions, but I noted something to do with in the floodplain about no longer allowing on-site sewage services, et cetera. So would that just ultimately be leading us towards the idea that there would be no washrooms in boathouses? And are those the types of things that you envision?
Director Huff.
Thank you, Chair. Those are all very good questions. So one aspect that I'll point out is that shoreline structures such as boathouses are permitted in the policy to be located within the floodplain. So in terms of impact from the 5-meter wave uprush, I think it's more not geared towards an impact on boathouses and docks per se, but more permanent land-based structures that they be located outside. As for its impact on washrooms in boathouses, that's something that we continue to talk to the district about. I think that's a really good point. My sense is that the intent is to ensure that the tank and the bed is located outside of the floodplain, and if they're agreeable to a pipe underground connecting the facility to the tank and the bed that's located outside the floodplain, that's something that we don't know at this point.
Okay, last question, and then
Nope.
I'm sure I'll have others, but so I think you have noted in here that staff is seeking clarification on what does no adverse environmental impacts and new hazards are not created or existing hazards. Again, I'm just mindful of the fact that it's the 4,500 properties that are being called out, particularly on Lake Muskoka, but it does extend to Lake Joe and Rosso. And I'm not trying to but those are the 3 big lakes, right? Where what most of the waterfront structures are. I note that you're already trying to seek clarification as to exactly what does that mean.
Yeah.
Director Huff.
We thank you through the chair. So we did have a conversation in terms of no net environmental impact. Likely that's going to really cue into is there significant fish habitat in the area? And if there is, as part of a site plan, maybe you need to do an EIS to ensure that fish habitat is not impacted. In terms of protecting, I forget what the wording is on the second one, but there's potential that we might need an opinion from an engineer just to ensure that it's appropriately constructed. And But there will be some further guidance from the district on how and when we would ask for that, because we've already raised this as this is a little outside of our area of expertise and we need some more direction on when to ask for that.
Sorry, one last quick question, sorry. And I think that you also noted in here, understanding the impact on the current boathouses versus any new applications. Is that something that you're trying to seek clarity on as well?
Director Huff?
That's correct. Yeah. We
Thank
are
you.
still discussing that and we don't have an answer yet from the district.
Thank you.
Committee, any other discussion? Councillor Roberts.
Thank you. Just for more clarity for me. There were 3 lakes mentioned in the whole district. 3 Mile Lake, Bass Lake, and Silver Lake. Now, were they mentioned because of a relationship to Lake Muskoka? Why only 3 in all of Muskoka and they're all in our ward or township?
Director Huff?
Through the chair to Councillor Roberts. So there were actually more lakes identified as highly sensitive. I just mentioned those 3 lakes because those are located within our township. And really it has to do largely with algae blooms and how frequently they're happening on those lakes.
Yeah, because I'm surprised that Leonard Lake wasn't mentioned because we have significant algae blooms or have been.
Director Huff?
That's okay.
I can,
Yeah.
to the chair, I can double check the lakes, but I know they are proposing a new method of classifying them, which will mean that with respect to algae blooms, in the past, you'd be classified as a highly sensitive lake if you just had one bloom. Now they're proposing to change that so that if you have to have at least 2 consecutive blooms in order to be placed on that list. And that's really in trying to avoid the situation that's happening now where lakes are being bumped onto and off of this list on a regular basis, on an annual basis. And it's really confusing and it really has significant impacts because they're then planning rules related to whether or not you are or not on it.
I just have 2 additional questions, Chair, and
one. Fair enough, Councillor.
One, if I may ask that I received back information on Leonard Lake being on or off the list.
All right.
All right. And the second one, we have 4 great representatives on district. Do we have one representative that is involved in a committee with this official plan?
Mayor Kelly, do you know the answer to that?
I can. Yeah, it would be Councillor Edwards, who is on the committee. Can't remember the name of your committee right now, but the planning committee.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
planning, and we can talk offline.
Do you
with
talk
that.
to me or I talk
Sure.
to you or we talk
Yeah.
both of you?
Okay, no, it is, because it's quite conflict, we just can't answer it in 1,
No.
2 sentences.
Okay, thank you.
Committee, any other? I have a question. You mentioned that if I understand it correctly, the setback is going from 20 to 30 meters. Can you talk about that for us?
Thank you through the chair to the chair. So there is an increase from 15 to 30 meters in terms of the shoreline buffer. So that currently the township's official plan only requires a 15-meter in-depth buffer. And so that is proposed to change. And that would be something that we would review as part of site plan applications to increase that buffer.
And then there was another, the setback I thought for buildings went from 20 to 30. Is that correct?
Yes. So again, through the chair to the chair. So the 30-meter setback to structures relative to the shoreline is being proposed in the district. Again, there is an exemption for shoreline structures, so docks and boathouses, as well as for minor accessory structures such as open decks or very small, I'm probably thinking like a pump house, etc., would be And then going forward, the remaining structures would be pushed back. We're just not sure what that means for structures that exist now within that buffer and want to expand. And so again, that's something that we're clarifying from the district, how they want us to deal with that.
So that means our setbacks go from 66 feet to over around 100 feet, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mayor Kelly.
Thank you. And through you, and just, this may have been asked by Councillor Mazan, but does that mean on Lake Muskoka that it's an increased setback and it's measured from the 15 foot or 5 meter uprush mark? Or is it measured from, and I realize you may not know, but that would be a curiosity to me if the new uprush point is the new starting point for counting setback.
That's a very good question.
Director Huff.
I don't have an answer for you right now. I don't know.
Most of our lots wouldn't. Anyway. Committee, do we have any other discussions on that? So I do have a resolution. Moved by Councillor Roberts, seconded by Councillor Edwards. Be it resolved that staff be directed to provide comments to the District of Muskoka on the proposed amendments to the official plan, Muskoka official plan as noted in report DSES 2026-006. So we've had our discussion. Any further? All those in favor? Okay, that carries. Our next item on the agenda, I believe, is also Director Huff. The update on Bill 60.
Thank you, Chair. This information is provided just for information only, no resolution attached with this. And this is provided in an effort to keep Planning Committee up to date on the various legislative changes that are happening again at the provincial level. Bill 60 introduces actually 15 affects changes to 15 different statutes province-wide. But really, this review really just focuses on those that are most important to the local municipal context. There are changes to Planning Act, Development Charges Act, namely, that I'll focus on. So with respect to the Planning Act changes, I've identified a few. I'm just going to speak to one of them, and this is the as of right zoning variances, because this is the one that might have an impact on some areas of the township. So the province has given themselves authority to prescribe a percentage across the board that allows for deviations from the zoning standard. So the province has recently released a regulation that says that going forward, in particular areas, there's a 90% setback rule now in place, which means that if a zoning standard requires a 10-meter setback, someone can submit a building permit for 9 meters and be technically in compliance because they're achieving a 90% setback of the standard, as confusing as what that is. And so it is only in relation to setbacks at this moment. So it doesn't relate to height, it doesn't relate to coverage, and it only relates to areas that are located within a settlement area and are located on full municipal services, and then are not located close to railway lines or water bodies, and there's a particular distance. So given the context of Muskoka Lakes, we only have 2 serviced areas, and much of those serviced areas are close to water bodies. But there will be portions of both Port Carling and Bala that will be impacted by this rule. And so building staff and planning staff are already cognizant of this change and are reviewing permits and keeping this change in mind. So it is possible that you could see a building permit being issued for something that technically doesn't meet our zoning bylaw, but does comply to this new rule. And it's also possible that at some point in the future, we'll have minor variance applications that the planners are going to be doing some fancy footwork in an analysis because it's relative to or has to keep in mind this 90% rule and not only with respect to our own provisions in our zoning bylaw. So that's just the heads up on that one. And then again, a number of changes, and I believe Director Donaldson has mentioned some of the changes already to the Development Charges Act that we're working through. I know a number of the CBOs as well as treasurers locally are working together to implement these changes. A lot of these changes, there's not a lot of them, I should say. One is that there might be a need for the township and both the district to create a local service policy, which just outlines the circumstances where a developer would be responsible for the costs of improvements beyond what is just within their own development. And then the other thing is there's opportunity for owners potentially to pay development charges at the time of occupancy and not at the time of a building permit. So those are all getting sorted out locally. The rest of the information that I've provided, it's really just of interest to municipalities, I think generally. They don't necessarily apply to the context that we're dealing with at present, but they could in the future. So again, I'll leave it there. Happy to answer any questions that Planning Committee might have.
Sorry. Committee, any questions? Seeing none. Councillor Zavitz.
Certainly, thank you, and through you. I suppose with these last two reports through Jennifer, much appreciated, but certainly points an arrow towards counselor, I guess in terms of governance, education, going forward. So I wonder how the township sees that process as we as committees sit, and as new folks coming on sit as committees and have to decipher through so many changes. What do we have a theory on that, or a process that we might engage in terms of forward think on education? Thank you.
Director Huff.
Thank you, Chair. Through to Councillor Zavitz. I think that's something of mind amongst staff, how to keep abreast of the changes. We do certainly depend a lot on the connections that we have to our peers to sort through the changes, as well as just staff taking opportunities to educate ourselves before we feel comfortable really disseminating the information, because the changes are happening so quickly and they are complex. And at the same time, we do know in the past that sometimes these changes come out and there seems to be a pause and then a reversal, or perhaps further changes to make improvements to the legislation. And so there is a challenge in not wanting to react too quickly before we fully understand the changes, and to ensure that the changes actually stick before we encounter or embark on a very large education process. So there's finding that middle ground is tough. There are certain changes I think that do warrant, discussion even amongst the consulting community as well, because it affects building permits, it affects site plan submissions. So both that from us and the district, we really do need to be cognizant of what those changes are and think about at what point do we start rolling these out to the broader community. Sorry, it's not a great answer. It's really tough to try and keep abreast of all these.
Councillor Zavitz.
Yes, thank you. And Jennifer, great answer, actually. And it's I guess it's a critical path moving forward. It's a moment in time. I suppose as we were adaptive through the strong mayor powers, and the mayor, worked us through that new budget, which was a first for us and him. And now as we move on to quite a myriad of change, I just obviously a holding point of how do we dial that all in, all this new information. It's coming pretty fast, and it seems profound and new information that impacts us both from a district and a township perspective. So a lot of expectations on people who are to, interpret those rules and those new rules. Thank you.
All right, committee, do we have any other questions? Councillor Edwards.
Yes, with development charges, we see applications where their heights is going up, and at some point we may need a aerial ladder on the fire department. Could that be included in a portion of the development charges? I know there's stipulations on what you can ask. Would that be one of them in the future?
Director Huff.
Thank you, Chair. To Councillor Edwards, it's a little bit outside of my bailiwick. I'm not an expert in development charges, but that's my understanding. The next time that our development charge study is updated, we could include or review our fire department's needs and add those capital items to the charges that we collect.
All right, committee, I think we've exhausted the questions. Thank you very much, Director Huff. Our last item of business is some unfinished business, and it relates to the Ballabay Inn. It is B 4243/25 ML and a zoning bylaw amendment 2525. And we start with Ms. Crowder. Welcome back.
Thank you, Chair Bosenworth. The next applications to be heard are concurrent consent applications B 4243/25 ML, zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 2525, and official plan amendment application OPA 63 in the name of 2253100 Ontario Limited, more commonly referred to as the Ballabay Inn. The subject lands are known municipally as 3063 Muskoka Road 169. As committee may recall, these applications were originally heard on October 16th, 2025. Next slide, please. I would direct committee's attention to the updated consent and zoning sketch on page 391 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of these applications is to create one new residential lot with frontage on Muskoka Road 169, to grant a blanket easement over the proposed severed lot in favor of the retained lot for the purpose of access and parking, to rezone the proposed severed lot from community commercial, resort commercial C1B to community residential, multiple residential high density RM2, and to permit a number of exemptions to facilitate the proposed severance and the development of a multi-residential apartment building containing up to 79 units on the proposed severed lot. Next slide, please. The subject lands are currently located within the Urban Center Resort Commercial designation of the Township's 2023 official plan. Official plan amendment application OPA 63 has been submitted to redesignate the proposed severed lot from Urban Center Resort Commercial to Urban Center Urban Residential. The purpose and effect of this redesignation is to reflect the high density of the proposed development. Next slide, please. The applications were deferred by Planning Committee in October for staff to undertake a review and analysis of submissions received in response to the applications, and that as part of the deferral, the following items be completed. Peer reviews by a qualified third-party consultant to the satisfaction of the township of the following submitted documents. First, the heritage impact assessment. Second, the noise impact study. And third, the scoped environmental impact report. And peer review by a qualified third-party consultant to the satisfaction of the District Municipality of Muskoka of the Transportation Impact Brief prepared by Tatham Engineering and dated March 10th, 2025. That revised plans be submitted which show the accurate extent and location of Musquash Road relative to the subject lands, and that the parking justification report be amended to address considerations related to barrier-free parking. As committee may recall, during the November 12th, 2025 council meeting, the applications were pulled for consideration by a member of council. Staff presented to council and recommended that the resolution from the previous planning committee be amended to remove the requirements stated in the deferral beyond the receival and review of public and agency comments. Council passed the revised resolution, which is linked in the staff report. Staff are satisfied that the previously requested items can be adequately addressed through alternative planning tools, such as holding provisions and site plan control. Next slide, please. The applicant's agent has conveyed a number of proposed technical amendments to the applications relative to lot frontage, parking, development density, the proposed blanket easement, and the number of required parking spaces. Staff are supportive of these proposed changes as detailed in the staff report. Next slide, please. No new comments have been received since the initial public meeting for the applications. Staff can read any of the previous submissions in full at the request of committee. And next slide, please. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration. Staff recommend that official plan amendment application OPA 63 be adopted by the township through the approval of the bylaw, bylaw 2025- number to be assigned, and the record be forwarded to the District Municipality of Muskoka for approval. Staff further recommend that zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 2525 amended be approved subject to the following. That revisions be made to the draft bylaw to implement the wording which requires the approval of OPA 63 prior to the bylaw coming into force and effect. Incorporate exemption I, being an exemption to permit parking for the retained lot in consent applications B 42, 43, 25 ML on the severed lot in the same applications until occupancy is granted on the severed lot of the main residential use as detailed in staff report plan 2026-12. Revise the proposed lot frontage of the retained lot in the consent applications from 219 feet to 217 feet. Revise the wording associated with exemptions related to parking and to replace the existing Schedule 3 to the draft bylaw as described in the staff report. Incorporate exemption H, being an exemption to permit a maximum density of development on the retained lot in the consent applications of 33.3 units per hectare or 13.3 units per acre, and implement the required wording to incorporate a holding provision as detailed below. That a holding provision be placed on the severed lot in consent applications B 42, 43, 25 ML for the following. A functional servicing report has been submitted to the satisfaction of the District Municipality of Muskoka. Hydraulic modeling be completed and the results incorporated into the FSR to the satisfaction of the District Municipality of Muskoka. The applicant enter into an agreement with the District Municipality of Muskoka respecting the provision of municipal water and sewer services and related capacity allocation, including the provision of securities if necessary. The traffic impact brief prepared by Tatham Engineering dated March 10th, 2025 be peer reviewed to the satisfaction of the township. The noise impact study prepared by J.E. Coulter Associates Limited and dated April 16th, 2025 be peer reviewed to the satisfaction of the township. The scoped environmental impact report prepared by Beacon Environmental and dated April 16th, 2025 be peer reviewed to the satisfaction of the township. That any findings of the peer reviews be implemented to the satisfaction of the township. Entrance permits from the township and district be issued as may be required. And the subject lands be required to obtain site plan approval and that a satisfactory site plan agreement be entered into and registered on title along with securities for matters including but not limited to implementation of the recommendations of the technical studies to the satisfaction of the township and the District of Muskoka, and inclusion of a warning clause to address any potential compatibility concerns of the identified water pollution control plant if necessary. Staff further recommend that consent applications B 42, 43, 25 ML be approved subject to the following conditions. That the certificate of consent under section 5342 of the Planning Act, along with a transfer and preparation, be prepared by a solicitor and shall be given to the Secretary Treasurer within 2 years from the date of the notice of decision. That one hard copy and a digital copy of the registered reference plan of the severed lot rights-of-way easements prepared by an Ontario land surveyor be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer, which corresponds to the application as submitted. A draft copy of the reference plan shall be provided to the Secretary Treasurer for review and approval prior to registration on title. That official plan amendment 63 be adopted by Township Council and approved by the District Municipality of Muskoka. That the severed lands be rezoned to RM2 and exemptions granted for the retained lands to allow a reduced lot frontage and increased density. that the availability of entrance permits be confirmed by the District of Muskoka and or the Township's Operational Services Department for the severed and retained lots. And that cash in lieu of parkland be dedicated to the township in the amount of 5% of the assessed value of newly created vacant lot or the entire lands, whichever is less. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you for that very complete report. I expect we have nobody in the waiting room to either speak in favor or against. Am I correct on that? Okay. Mr. Sawyer. Welcome again. You know the regime.
Sam Sawyer. Are we on now?
Yes.
Okay, I knew I was forgetting something there. Okay, so thank you once again. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm a senior planner with Tulloch. My name is Sam Sawyer. We're located at 80 Main Street West in Huntsville, postal code P1H1W9, and I'm representing the applicant for this application. Thank you to staff for the constructive meetings that we've had both before and after the public meeting in October, and also for the detailed overview of the applications in the report and this morning as well. Since the committee meeting in October, there have been a few updates to provide, and Ms. Crowder has outlined these in her report, mentioning the recent progress related to how the peer review of the transportation impact brief appears to be finalized, although we're still waiting final confirmation, and the improvements to the Musquash Road entrance will be achieved through detailed design. Also, the updated site plan has been provided to demonstrate satisfactory access by emergency services. And we have no concerns with the recommended revisions to the draft bylaw, and we also do not have any concerns with the recommended holding provision approach, nor with the recommended requirements of the holding provision, and also no concerns with the recommended conditions of consent, all outlined by Ms. Crowder in her presentation. The holding provision in combination with the conditions of consent and the upcoming site plan approval process will ensure that the township does retain proper oversight throughout the detailed design process. It's been quite the process for the applicant to get to this stage, and there are obviously considerable additional steps that will need to be taken before they are able to obtain a building permit. In this case, for Muskoka Lakes, the approval of these applications will make possible the construction of a significant number of residential units in a location that is highly accessible and within a fully serviced urban center. The proposal also aligns with the community improvement plan for Bala, which specifically identifies the Bala Bay Inn property as a key intensification opportunity while retaining and promoting the long-term viability of the historic inn. So the applications have been specifically designed to help achieve the vision of the community improvement plan and to also conform with the vision of Vision for Bala as set out in the official plan during a time that housing is indeed top of mind. The proposal conforms with the applicable planning policy, supports intensification to create housing, and subject to the recommendations outlined by township staff, we would appreciate your consideration of the applications for approval. Thank you. I'm available for any questions, and it's my understanding that Mr. Greg Knight is also available online.
Right. Thank you very much. All right, committee. Question time. No questions. Guess we have two resolutions. Three resolutions. First is moved by Mayor Kelly, seconded by Councillor McIntyre. Be it resolved that the official plan application OPA 63 be adopted by the township through the approval of bylaw 2025 number yet to be determined, and the record be forwarded to the district municipality of Muskoka for approval. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Second one, moved by Councillor Kent, seconded by Councillor Zavitz. Be it resolved that zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 25/25 amended be approved subject to the following. The revisions be made to the draft bylaw to implement wording which requires the approval of OPA 63 prior to the bylaw coming into force and effect. Incorporate exemption 1 or I, being an exemption to permit parking for the retained lot in consent applications B 4243/25 ML on the severed lot in the same applications until occupancy is granted on the severed lot of the main residential use as detailed in staff report plan 2026-012. Revise the proposed lot frontage of the retained lot in consent applications B 4243/25 ML from 219 feet to 217 feet. Revise the wording associated with the exemptions related to the parking and to replace the existing Schedule 3 to the draft bylaw as described in staff report plan 2026-012. Incorporate exemption H, being an exemption to permit a maximum density of development on the retained lot in consent applications B 4243/25 of 33.3 units per hectare or 13.3 units per acre, and implement the required wording to incorporate holding bracket H provision as detailed below. That a holding bracket H provision be placed on the severed lot in consent application B 4243/25 ML for the following. A functional servicing report has been submitted to the satisfaction of the District of Muskoka. Hydraulic modeling has been completed and the results incorporated into the FSR to the satisfaction of the District of Muskoka. The applicant has entered into an agreement with the District of Muskoka respecting the provision of municipal water and sewer services and related capacity allocation, including the provision of securities if necessary. The traffic impact brief prepared by Tatum Engineering dated March 10th, 2025 has been peer reviewed to the satisfaction of the township. The noise impact study prepared by J.E. Coulter Associates Limited and dated April 16th, 2025 has been peer reviewed to the satisfaction of the township. The scoped environmental impact report prepared by Beacon Environmental and dated April 16th, 2025 has been peer reviewed to the satisfaction of the township. That any finding of the peer reviews be implemented to the satisfaction of the township. Entrance permits from the district and township have been issued and may be required and as may be required, and the subject lands be required to obtain site plan approval and that a satisfactory site plan agreement be entered into and registered on title along with securities for matters including but not limited to implementation of the recommendations of the technical studies to the satisfaction of the township and District of Muskoka, and inclusion of a warning clause to address any potential compatibility concerns of the identified water pollution control plant if necessary. Councillor Edwards.
Just a clarification, if I could, Chair. On page 391, where it shows the parking, is there some parking on the retained lot that's actually the Bala Bay Inn?
Ms. Crowder?
Thank you. Through you, Chair Bosenworth, to Councillor Edwards. And sorry, can you clarify? The question was, is there parking on the Bala Bay Inn property
That's right, yeah.
that's to be used for the new?
That's what it looks like here, and I just wanted to have it clarified.
Yeah, so the proposed parking configuration is not set in stone through this approval. The applicant agent proposed a more general approach wherein the number of parking spaces be satisfied, but the configuration of those parking spaces will be hammered out at the detailed design stage. The parking lot design that you're seeing in front of you would allow the severed lot to carry on into the retained, which is the Balaban property for the parking. So they are shown as connected.
Okay, and then would that bring it up to the required amount? Because I think there was a shortfall at one point, and we could get all of the parking on that. I'm not opposed to it. I'm just asking a question.
Ms. Crowder.
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Edwards. So the Balabay Inn parcel, which is the proposed retained lot, is proposing to meet the minimum parking space requirements. They actually are proposing, I think, 6 spaces additional, which would help satisfy some of the parking deficiency on the proposed severed lot, which is the new residential building. But they would still be deficient in parking per our standards in the zoning bylaw. So they do need that relief.
Okay, no, that was my other question then. Showing that, could they not get the required parking using both properties?
Ms.
Or is
Crowder.
that deficient?
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Edwards, if you combined the parking spaces proposed on both lots, they don't satisfy the minimum requirement of parking as the application is presented today.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any further questions or discussions? All those in favor? Any opposed? Carries. So this is the final one. Moved by Councillor Burry, seconded by Councillor Edwards. Be it resolved that consent application B4243/25ML be approved subject to the following conditions. That the certificate of consent under section 53(42) of the Planning Act, along with a transfer in preparation, be prepared by a solicitor and shall be given to the Secretary Treasurer within 2 years from the date of the notice of the decision was given. The one hard copy and a digital copy of a registered reference plan of the severed lot / right-of-ways / easements prepared by an Ontario land surveyor be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer, which corresponds with the application as submitted. A draft copy of the reference plan shall be provided to the Secretary Treasurer for review and approval prior to the registration on title. That official plan amendment 63 be adopted by Township Council and approved by the District Municipality of Muskoka. That the severed lots be zoned to RM2 and exemptions granted for the retained lands to allow a reduced lot frontage and increased density. That availability of entrance permits be confirmed by the District of Muskoka and/or the Township's Operational Services Department for the severed and retained lots. And that cash in lieu of parkland be dedicated to the township in the amount of 5% of the assessed value of newly created vacant lot or the entire lands, whichever is less. Discussions, questions? All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. All right. Director Huff, do we have anything under general information, staff get delegated approvals, course, and site plans? Obviously, I guess there was 2 site plans done on commercial properties. But that's a delegated authority, so this is for information only. All right, we don't have anything else in our agenda. Councillor Burry.
Thank you, and through you, I'd like to ask our CAO what the capacity of staff would be if we were to ask at this point to examine licensing of contractors. And I'm not even sure that that's a planning issue, but it's all kind of interrelated. We've been around the whole piece about do we look at contracting or at licensing our contractors, whether they be general, landscape, building, whatever it is. And I'm just wondering, like, I don't want to throw a bunch of work at staff that we just don't have the capacity to do. But we've been rumbling about it at this table for at least the 3 years that I've been here, and I know for several years before. And I'm just wondering if that's something that we have capacity to deal with right now, given that I know there are a whole pile of other conflicting priorities, and maybe this is not at the top of the pack yet. So maybe your comments, David, please.
CEO Pink.
Thank you, through you. I'm not sure if your question is directly related to the capacity to undertake such a licensing program, which my initial reaction would be likely not under the current resources. But I do think staff would be able to at least examine the issue and provide at least an initial staff report on the issues. And if needed, I suppose there could be funds asked if further research and outside expertise was needed. But I think we can undertake it. I wouldn't commit to an extremely quick turnaround. There's a lot going on, but we can certainly, should committee pass a resolution requesting a staff report or a review, I can safely say that staff could commit to at least initiating that review and coming back with some information.
So I would just ask if my fellow councillors have an appetite for putting that on the table.
Councillor Roberts?
Yes, I would support.
So I would
like a resolution.
I would like a resolution. That do we need a few minutes?
Yeah. Couple of minutes and
And it's
Okay? All right. All right, committee, here is the proposed resolution moved by Councillor Berry, seconded by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved that council direct staff to undertake an initial review and report back on the feasibility, implications, and the potential scope and options of a contractor licensing program within the township, including legal authority, administrative requirements, costs, and enforcement considerations. Any discussion? Councillor Edwards.
First of all, I question, when you come in for a building permit now, do you have to list your contractor?
Director Huff?
Maybe David, I don't know.
CEO Pink, do you know the answer to that?
Through you, I wonder if the CBO happens to be watching, I can connect to that. My initial reaction is I don't believe you're required to. Certain projects can be undertaken by the landowner themselves. So I don't think you're mandated to list your contractor unless you happen to have one and you do list.
That would be a start in that, so that, you know, we can go after contractors of that. Secondly, I would support this 100% because being a contractor for years, I had to carry licenses in every municipality I worked in. And it makes everybody play on the same level. And that, so they have to follow the rules. So I would support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee, any other comments? All right, let me call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. All right, I have one more resolution. I think we all know what that is.
Okay.
Moved by Councillor Mazin, seconded by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved that the planning committee meeting adjourned, at 11:35 a.m. and that the next regular planning committee meeting will be held on Thursday, February the 12th, 2026 at 9 a.m. via an electronically and in-person hybrid format from the council chambers in beautiful downtown Port Carling, Ontario. All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Carried.